Welcome to lesson 5-7. We're going to talk about using the value of a ratio to create equations. Right, so here are what your notes look like for this section. I would suggest, if this hasn't been fixed for you yet, that you grab a separate sheet of paper to kind of add into this, because I'm going to go over a couple of things in the beginning that I did not leave space for. All right, so again, if this was fixed on your set of notes, great. If not, grab a separate sheet of paper so you can continue along with me. Okay, so we're going to go back to what we learned about in 5-6, which was finding the value of the ratio. And we're going to take the value of the ratio and we're going to learn how to write an equation using the value of the ratio. When you're writing an equation is a mathematical sentence. So that sentence in numbers actually tells us something in words. Okay, so we're going to take our words and put them into a sentence with numbers. Now in these equations allow us to plug in different numbers. These equations allow us to plug in different numbers and find answers in different situations. So this is where we really have to know what our words mean when we're talking about of, is, times, minus, plus, take away, all that type of stuff. So we're going to actually take our first sentence, which was the number of people who like extra crunchy peanut butter is 5/9 the number of total people. Right, so in this case, it's the number of people who like extra crunchy is 5/9 the number of total people. Okay, so we're just going to put 5/9 of total people. Right? So first things first. In this case, when you're writing equations, you're writing equations assuming that you don't know what your numbers are equal to. So like extra crunchy. From the problem that we were given, we know that it's 5 people like extra crunchy out of 9. However, this equation is for when we have more than 9 people. So we're not going to use those numbers as extra crunchy and total. We're going to use them in our value, and then we are going to use that value to help us find larger or different numbers that involve extra crunchy or the total. Okay, so in this case, the number of people who like extra crunchy. Well, since I don't know how many people like extra crunchy, then I need to have a variable to represent it. So E is the number of people who like extra crunchy. Oops. Who like is definitely 2 words. And we can put extra crunchy PB. See how simple that is? But we do have to define the variable. And in this case, of total people. Again, we don't know the total. So I'm going to use T for total people. In this case, I'm just going to put total, because sometimes we might not be talking about people or people who like extra crunchy or total number of people. We can just be talking about, we can be using this for the manufacturer. So even though we surveyed people, we use the people information to determine how many containers we should make. Right, so we're just going to talk about extra crunchy and total. So in this case, I want you to think of this problem. So 3 times 4 equals 12. Okay, well, what if I said it this way? 3 groups of 4 is 12. It means the same thing, does it not? But in this case, instead of saying times, we used of, and instead of saying equals, we said is, right? So if I say that, the real school, actually that's a bad example, so I'm not going to use it. What if I use the example of 2 minus 1 is 1, right? Is means equals when we're talking about the world of math. So in this case, the word is going to turn into our equal sign. And extra crunchy, we don't know how many that is, so we know that E is going to stand in for extra crunchy. So extra crunchy is 5/9, well, we know that, so we can just pull that down. Of, again, of tells us to multiply. So of means that we're either taking part of a group or we have groups of that amount. And that always means multiply. And then it's total people, which we know is represented by T. So now, anytime that I want to find how many extra crunchy I should buy, make, or how many extra crunchy, or how many people like extra crunchy, I can use this equation. I can take the total number of people, multiply it by 5/9, and that'll tell me how many extra crunchy whatever there are. Right? So to double check and make sure that this works, we can actually use the numbers that we had in our actual ratio, which was 5 and 9. So 5 should be equal to 5/9 times 9. And based on our rules of multiplying with fractions, I know that I put 9 over 1. And I get 5 times 9 is 45 because I multiply straight across. And I get 45 over 9. And then here, 45 divided by 9 does equal 5. So since this is correct, I know that my equation is correct. So I can actually double check by using what I learned from the problem. Right? So these statements that we made before, these sentences, are actually helping us put together our equation. So then now remember, the equation helps us find information when we're using bigger numbers, because remember, ratios allow us to work with simplified numbers, because when we talk about tens of thousands, it's really hard to picture and work with. Okay, so then that first equation that we have is E, so the number of extra crunchy is equal to 5/9 times the total number of people. Okay, so here I gave you that example, and now we're going to go through and we're actually going to create an equation for every single sentence that we did previously. So again, as always, when we're going through this, if you feel comfortable, I want you to pause, at your own point, pause and go through it by yourself and then come back and check your work. Do that, do one and then check. And if you got it wrong, watch the explanation. And then kind of keep going. And then if you get one right, then try 2 more on your own. Just take it at your own pace. So again, right now I'm going to go through another one with you. And if you're not ready, just keep going with me. If you are ready, pause and then come back. So the number of people who like regular crunchy is 4/9 of the total people. Now we haven't, so again, we defined E is our extra crunchy, R is our regular crunchy, and you should be writing extra crunchy and regular crunchy. I'm not, because my video doesn't give me enough space. And T is the total. All right, so regular crunchy is 4/9 of the total people. Okay, and again, if you go through and do the math, this works out. If you take 4/9 times 4, it gives you, 4/9 times 9, it gives you 4. All right, extra crunchy is 5/4 of regular crunchy. So E, since we already defined it, is 5/4 of R. All right, now I want you to go through and I want you to try these last 3 on your own, and when you come back, you're going to check your equation. Okay, so there are your 3 problems. And again, if you have questions in them, make sure that you write them down, or if you're unsure, go back and ask, or go back and rewatch this beginning part. Okay, so now I have my values, and I put them here just to kind of help me remember. and I have to decide which value I'm going to use or which equation I'm going to use in order to solve this problem. So again, we're going to use our close reading. So if the company is planning to produce 90,000 containers of crunchy peanut butter, how many of these containers should be new extra crunchy and how many should be regular crunchy? So there's actually two questions here, so I should have two answers. I want to know how many regular crunchy and how many extra crunchy. Now in this case, because it says containers of crunchy peanut butter, it doesn't say extra or regular. It's just saying crunchy peanut butter. That's all crunchy peanut butter. So then in this case, 90,000 is actually our total. And when I have the total, I want to know how many regular crunchy and how many extra crunchy I should make. All right, so let's look at our values. In this case, I know the total, and since extra crunchy was given first, I'm going to try to find extra crunchy. So thinking logically, anything that doesn't have those two in it, the total or extra crunchy, doesn't need to be used. Okay, so anything that has the regular crunchy information in it, not helpful. So now you've just eliminated all these options and you've given yourself two options because there's only two that have only extra crunchy and the total. So now here you have to think of how you want to write your equation. You want to find E. So you want E is something when you have T. So again, when you're trying to find E, which is the extra crunchy, you know that you're going to use, so the number of people who like extra crunchy is 5/9 of the total. Right? So a kind of a rule of thumb here is whatever you're using, so since I'm using total, that is what's on the bottom of my value. So then now what I say is, okay, I want to know how many extra crunchy peanut butter containers should be produced when, and since 49,000 is my total, I'm going to, 49,000, since 90,000 is my total, I'm going to plug in 90,000. So here's my equation. Again, we make an equation because a number like 90,000, we're not going to survey 90,000 people to find out how many extra crunchy peanut butter containers we should make. We're going to survey a small amount, and we're going to use that value to help us find how many we should make based on the total that we're making. So now I just go through and I do the math. So in this case, I have 5/9 times 90,000, and we know that to do this, I put it over 1. 5 times 9 is 45, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros, so I add 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros, and that should have been a comma, and then 9 times 1 is 9. Here I can do 45 divided by 9, and that gives me 5, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros left still, so 45,000 divided by 9 is 5,000. So I know that when 90,000 containers are made, 5,000 of them should be extra crunchy. Now to find regular crunchy, I'm not going to go back through and do a complete new equation. I'm going to say, okay, oops, I'm sorry, I missed a zero. This should be 50,000. I'm not going to go through and do this whole equation. I'm going to go through and say, okay, well, if 90,000 are being made, and I know 50,000 need to be extra crunchy, then whatever is left should be my regular crunchy. Right? And then, of course, we have to write a sentence explaining our answers because you can't just slap down numbers. Right? So here, my sentence is simple. When 90,000 containers of peanut butter are produced, 50,000 of them should be extra crunchy, and 40,000 of them should be regular crunchy. Okay, so now we've given meaning to our numbers, and that's a big part with math. It's not just about numbers and getting an answer. It's about getting an answer that makes sense and what does that answer mean. So here we have D, and you have D and E left. D I'm going to do with you, and E is going to be your you try problem that you're doing on your own. I think that I didn't box either of them, but I do want to take a minute and have you guys try those on your own. So I apologize for that mistake on there. All right, if the company decides to produce 2,000 containers of regular crunchy peanut butter, how many containers of new extra crunchy peanut butter would it produce? All right, so let's do our close reading. The question is, how many containers of extra crunchy does it produce? And I'm looking for extra crunchy. Okay, so again, over here I can say E is what I'm looking for. And it's producing 2,000 regular crunchy. That's important because now I know that regular crunchy equals 2,000. It isn't a total because I have the word regular right here. If it just said crunchy peanut butter, that would be the total, but it says regular. It's being specific. So now when I'm looking at my values and trying to figure out the equation that I need to write, I need to figure out which value I'm going to use. Well, I'm not going to use anything that had the total. So 5 ninths, 4 ninths, 9 fourths, 9 fifths. None of those are options because they all involve the total and we don't have the total. So I know from previously that my options were 5 fourths and 4 fifths. All right, so I'm looking for the amount of extra crunchy, which is going to be equal to, okay, well, extra crunchy is, and I know from my sentence, the amount of extra crunchy is 5 fourths the amount of regular crunchy. So here again, if I know my regular crunchy, and that's what I have, then I want that number to be on bottom. All right, so this is the equation that I'm going to use. And then, because, and I'm going to explain something here. So here, when you have 5 fourths is an improper fraction. That means it's a whole number with a fraction, which means when you multiply, your answer should get larger. Right? Sometimes when we multiply by fractions, or whenever we multiply by a fraction, our number gets smaller, but because it's an improper fraction, our number should get larger. So in this case, I want to know how many extra crunchy containers should be made when, again, 2,000 is my regular crunchy, when 2,000 regular crunchy containers are made. All right, and then I go through and do my math, and I know that 5 fourths times 2,000, I have to put it over 1. And I'm going to do my cross simplification. I know that 4 and 2,000 can both be divided by 4, so here I get 1. And 2,000 divided by 4, well, 4 goes into 25 times, so this is 500. And now I can multiply straight across. 5 times 5 is 25 with 2 zeros, and 1 times 1 is 1. So I know that when 2,000 regular crunchy containers are made, 2,500 extra crunchy containers should be made. And I will type that out as my answer. So when 2,000 regular crunchy containers are, then 2,500 extra crunchy containers should be made. Right, and again, this one you're going to do on your own. So you are going to create your equation, choose which value to use. Make sure you do your close reading. I cannot stress it enough. Don't just do it to do it to help you find that important information and to help you put together your equation. As always, if you have any questions, please be sure to write them down or email me so we can go over them in class.